So hello gardeners, welcome back. Today I am taking you on an end of the job tour video. We just finished this project. This is a nice little front yard, side yard landscape we did for a client, and I thought I would take you along because I got a special request from a subscriber who asked about butterfly gardens. So this isn't technically a full butterfly garden. However, the biggest thing my client wanted, she wanted to redo her landscape, obviously, kind of give it a nice little upgrade, but she really wanted to bring in the butterflies. So before she hired me to come out, she did go to a local nursery, told them exactly about the area, the amount of sun it gets, and get them to kind of pick out a bunch of butterfly plants that would work with the color scheme that she had to work with. Unfortunately, most of those things fried. They just didn't do well. They were a little bit the area is a little too soggy for some of the other plants. So it was just pretty much a complete fail. So she called me in and she said, "Look, I want this redone. I want it done with material that's hardy and tough, but I definitely want to incorporate some features for my butterflies. And I can see why. She does have like a nice little collection of butterflies that come around here, and they really, really love her garden. You can tell that she's kept it to make it very, very friendly for them over the years. So I definitely wanted to I didn't want to take any of their fun away. So we did redesign the landscape. And although butterfly gardens, I wouldn't say are my strong suit, I did a little bit of research on what works in this area, what's going to work with her soil. She has a very alkaline soil. It's kind of a soggy location. This area doesn't drain really well. So I really needed them to be tough plants. So I'm excited to share with you guys what we chose in hopes that if this is a similar situation in your space, that this might be some butterfly plants that you choose to use for your own garden. So let's do it. Come on. All right, so I know you guys will find this as a shocker, but one of the nicest butterfly plants that I love to work with are Bloom My Minds. They're a fantastic attractant, just such beautiful blooms. They offer so much. So Bloom My Minds can handle this kind of conditioning. They can be planted in the stone because they like it dry. And they really do well against that heat and combat that heat on the pavers. So I love using Bloom My Mind as a nice border planting. They're going to stay nice and compact and low and just do super, super well. The next thing is the yellow thryallis. I mean, look at these buds on these guys, you guys. Aren't they just gorgeous? A beautiful native plant to work with. They're absolutely a happy plant. The only negative to these guys is that over time, as they grow in, they will bush out nice and full together. However, you're going to get about 1 foot to 1.5 foot of woody trunk at the bottom. So the top half above that 1 to 1.5 foot is going to be absolutely gorgeous, absolutely stunning. But you definitely want to have something that's going to be about 1 foot or 2 below them. That's going to give you a little bit of a blockage. So go ahead and don't be afraid to use them for that reason because they pay off super, super well. I enjoy using them so much in my garden. So they're going to give you a lot of this bright color 10 months out of the year. So they're a great, great attractant. Birds and butterflies love them. Then again, of course, we have a nice swath of Bloom My Minds. And then Anne-Marie Lantana. I love this type of lantana. It's not so much of a spreader, but it's more of like a little clumping plant. So very similar to how the Bloom My Minds do, but they get nice 1.5 foot to 2 foot tall and become a beautiful, just kind of a confetti of color together. And so I definitely like to plant those in groups of 6 or 8, just really kind of give you some nice thick coverage of those. But I think they're a fantastic little border plant. And of course, lantana, butterflies, birds. I mean, everybody loves lantana, so they're ideal for that. So, and as I mentioned that the plants that she had previously here just pretty much fried in this front yard, midday to late day afternoon sun that this front yard gets. So these lantanas can take the heat. They are summer bound, and actually not just take it, they love it. So they're going to do super well in this grouping. So let them fully connect together, be a nice swath of pink and reds and yellows, and they're just such a cool collection, and they're going to bounce back so beautifully against that purple or against that blue bloom of the Bloom My Minds. So we've got blue, yellow, and a confetti of color down below. Another butterfly favorite is going to be your dwarf Ixora. And what I love about those is not only do the birds and the butterflies love them, but so does everybody else because they're just so hardy. This is a plant grouping you can keep individual. You can let them connect together as just a nice solid swath of bright color and 10 to 11 months of blooms out of these guys. Oh my goodness, they just do so well as a collection planting. So definitely do not shy away from those guys. And what I like about them so much is that I can use things like false agaves or small palm trees kind of popping up out of the middle of them, because anytime you have something so conformed like a boxwood or something with a small leaf that's just a slow growing dwarfed plant, you can actually, really play with what's going to go right next to it. So right next to it we have the false agave. And so imagine as these guys connect and grow together they're about 3 foot tall in the back. So as they grow together as a 3 foot grouping, and they're going to curve real nicely around this side, you're going to have this guy popping up out of the middle of them. So even though this will kind of form a soft hedge, you're going to have this that kind of gives it some dynamic, some interest. So I love the false agave. Not necessarily a butterfly plant. However, it is a people plant. I absolutely love working with it in the garden. So this is going to do a fantastic job of kind of creating some interest in this low area. And you'll notice that I do that a lot in my landscapes, where the middle section of a garden I'll keep super controlled, and then the ends where you're off to the side or the edge of the house, I let them get a little crazy, a little wild, a little denser, a little thicker. That's where kind of the softness comes in. But this area, more manicured. This is going to be almost like the sculptural part of the landscape, and the rest of it is more of that natural, softer feel. So you kind of have a nice contrast of both, which I love. So speaking of compact and elegant, these little golden dews, again, not a butterfly plant, but they support it so well. So I think it's going to be such a great combination. These are going to give you that lower grouping of what these guys do, and what a contrast in color these make together. So these golden dews or gold mounds really do a nice job of becoming that 2 foot kind of compact lower hedge. So we're going to have that here, and then the dwarf Ixora Taiwanese in the back. And then we end it with the same other feature point with the false agave. The clients already had this nice spindle palm here, and I think it's going to do super well as that centerpiece now that it's flanking with some interesting features like the false agave. I noticed that this tree has a little bit of a deficiency. You can see the flecks on the leaves here, that they're really it really struggled, but we hit it with a really good 8-2-12 fertilizer, and then hit it earlier in the landscape with some with the ag drench. It just does such a good job of really helping that with some micronutrients, and of course the 8-2-12 nutrients in the granular. So now it starts to thicken and become of a looser type of landscape. We're still bordering it nice with the Blue My Minds at the bottom, giving you that soft color where we started, so we kind of have a repetitive state. And then we have the dwarf firebush, which I love these guys. Now they're not super crazy fun right from the start, but when they grow in, they become a nice swirl of about 4 to 5 foot. So you can let these guys really thicken up this whole space, and they just bust out with blooms of this just gorgeous bloom of red and orange. I think that they're so fantastic. Not only do the butterflies and the birds love it, but the hummingbirds come running to this plant. This plant is a hummingbird attractant by far. So I like to pop these in the gardens anywhere I can, but the dwarf firebush is it's a visual beauty, and it's also just so great for all of our little wildlife. So dwarf firebush is going to get into that 4-foot range here. And then 5 to 6 foot range to the back with these double peach hibiscus. They've got buds all over them, but nobody's open today. So hopefully they're going to open up and blast some blooms here in the near future. But yeah, we've got buds everywhere. But this is double peach hibiscus. It's one of my favorite hibiscus. I think it's one of the most durable. The double peach, the reds, and the pinks are my favorite hibiscus of choice. So I think they're going to do super well. But that's just a small front island bed that we just kind of redesigned. And I'll slide in a before picture so you guys kind of see what the client was originally working with. We're going to just kind of take a quick peek at this side yard here. And you'll notice we used a lot of the same material. We've got a little clustering on this corner of dwarf firebush. We opened this bed up. She originally had these 2 palm trees. These were her main palm trees in the front yard. And you guys can obviously see the scale of the house. It really called for something bigger. So we brought in a triple foxtail and a single foxtail palm to kind of, enhance the look a little bit, and brought her palm trees over to the side that do a great job of kind of giving this wall a little bit of substance here. Her side yard, in a minute I'll let Bryce show you, but this is on a corner lot. So the side yard is very exposed to the whole corner of the community. So we wanted to make sure we didn't leave this out. So as the backdrop, we have the Collusia. You guys know how I feel about a Collusia hedge. I think Collusia is just, I will put it everywhere, I think. It's going to create a fantastic 5-foot border as a backdrop here. And then again, we continued with the yellow Thrialis. Oh my goodness, look at these blues. Going to give them color year-round there and just do so well in this particular spot. They're really just going to soak up the sun here. And then just to bring in a little bit of love to make sure the butterflies come back after all of this construction, we have some milkweed here. I've clustered some on this side and some on the opposite side, so that way this bed has a nice dose of milkweed, so we can invite the butterflies right back. Now, this is the lantana that my client had in the front yard. We trimmed it back, we root pruned it, and then put it back into this side of the garden because this area is not going to get so much of a close-up look, and it'll give these guys some time to really flush out. And keep in mind, we just finished this project like 30 minutes ago, so it's going to really pop back and do a nice job of kind of giving some variegated color at the bottom with all that confetti blooming. And then, of course, is the milkweed. And we finished this bed off with the exact same way we started it, with this Christmas palm and the dwarf firebush on the corner. Well, and that pretty much does it, you guys. It's a nice small landscape that we finished in a couple days, and I think it came together really nice. It's going to give the client exactly what she wanted, bringing those butterflies and birds back into her garden, and and it also it's going to be more of a long-term fix for her overall garden. So I hope some of those plants and trees are something you can incorporate into your own space, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Please comment True Gardener if you made it this far in the video. Also, we have new gardening t-shirts coming out. We have a True Gardener t-shirt that should be out in about a week or two. I will make sure to post it as soon as it's available down below in the link. Bryce and I are so very excited about it. He's been tinkering with it and playing with it for months, and now it's finally ready, so I cannot wait to share it with you guys and see True Gardener represented on a t-shirt. I just think it's the coolest thing ever. So I hope you guys check it out down below. So I will see you in the very next video. Take care. So hey, you guys, welcome back. I know I said goodbye, but I didn't mean it. No, we're gonna do a question and answer after every single video. We thought that might be a really good way to just give back at the end of every single video to some of the most common questions that we have coming our way. So that way this might help several people all at once, instead of answering a similar question over and over again within the comments. So today's question is weed barrier or no weed barrier? And the answer is yes and no, and I'll explain why. But for those of you who are very new to gardening and new to Florida and don't use weed barrier or don't know what weed barrier is, it's pretty much the black mesh barrier that is used on top of the ground before you put whatever ground cover that you use. It's what's supposed to prevent the weeds from coming up and through it. Now we're in Florida, so that's it helps, but it's not perfect. And the projects that I do use it on is for projects that we install stone for, because it's very, very important to have a barrier base underneath of your stone. And I'll get Bryce to show you an example of what that looks like actually in the job that we just finished that you just saw the video of. We have a little stone swath there. So in that stone swath, we use that barrier as a base before we put our stone on top of. And so that's partially to help you with the weeds that are going to come up through those rocks, because rocks are very porous. There's all those cracks in between, so weeds have a tendency to come through, and it's kind of hard to really kind of pull those weeds out and get the root system because you do have those heavy rocks on top of it. However, It's kind of a misconception that it does the same thing for mulch. It really doesn't. If you put mulch in that same area, for instance, in that same project that you're looking at, we haven't, the rest of it is mulch, and there is absolutely no weed barrier within that because mulch breaks down over time, and so it pretty much just sandwiches soil above and soil below, and the weeds just grow along the top of that with mulch. So mulch really doesn't it doesn't promote weeds, and then it also, the purpose of mulch is really to hold that moisture around the roots and around the base of each and every single plant. And with the weed barrier has a tendency to really restrict the water from getting into those areas. So I don't like to use weed barrier in mulch. It kind of just doesn't really, it really has no purpose in my situation, so I don't ever put it within the plants. Now you'll notice that I use plant groupings that are braided plants, so they braid at the bottom, which means the roots connect at the bottom, and the upper part of the plant, the stems, all connect at the top. So you'll notice in my plant groupings I'll have like a swath of this that's fully connected, and then the only gap is within the next plant grouping, and then there's a swath of that. And that does a really good job of helping prevent weeds. So it's more of a clustering plant grouping that does a nice job of preventing weeds. But so yes, so I'll get Bryce to kind of slide some of those videos in from that video you just watched and show you the areas with stone. We always use weed barrier. It helps keep the stone in place. It kind of helps make sure that it doesn't sink or you don't lose stone over time. And then of course it does help with the weeds and that kind of conditioning. Now keep in mind, and I know this isn't part of that question, but when you use plants within your stone garden, like that swath we have in that particular video, those plants, you want to make sure those are tough, hardy plants that can handle the bounce back from that stone. So there's definitely rock heats up. So you know the things like the blue my minds that you see in that picture, and the yellow thryallis, super, they love it. Hot lovers, collusia, dwarf collusia, exoris, you know, things that can handle that kind of stone wrapped around them for the midday heat. That's what you want to keep. But some of the softer plants, you definitely want to make sure they're within a mulch bed because they need that little cush, that little added bit of moisture. So I hope that helps you guys determine whether, you know, you're planning on using weed barrier or not weed barrier. So my entire garden that you see out here, there is absolutely no weed barrier, but everywhere you see stone, there is weed barrier. So, all right, you guys. Well, I sure hope this video helps, and I hope as you can see, how long that would have taken me to write. So I wanted to give you guys as much detail as possible, and I tend to really over-explain. So, I hope.
More comments for us.
Oh, so yes, like Bryce mentioned, please leave some more comments for us of any questions that you might be fighting with in your garden. Because if you had those questions, I'm sure so many others do. And if I can demystify anything for you in my experience and what I do here, then I am so very happy to do so. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the very next video. Comment True Gardener, you true gardeners, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.